Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so as Tori explained, my name is Alex Webb. I'm columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, writing primarily about technology across Europe. And I'm joined here by Artem Ermolaev, the president of the NGO Smart Cities. Christian Nardin, oh, sorry, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Christian Nardin is here, the senior vice president of high growth countries for Dassault Systèmes, and Dr. Larissa Suzuki, an author and senior principal product manager for machine learning at Oracle. Now, you know, we're in a world where I think already 3/4 of the world's energy is used by cities, and I think by 2050, 2/3 of the world's population will live in cities. Now we're moving to find solutions for this. As a market, the smart cities market is going to be worth $2.4 trillion by 2025. But I suppose it's a question of identifying what the problems are and therefore what solutions are appropriate. Now, Artem, you did work in the Moscow government for some time. What do you think are the biggest issues right now confronting rapidly growing cities?
The issues the cities are facing are absolutely different. It depends on what kind of city it is. Because for example, in Moscow in 2010, we have an issue in education that the parents were standing in the lines for days to get their kids in the first class. Today, we are facing with an issue. I mean, the Moscow is facing with an issue how to insert gaming in the educational process to attract the kids' attention in the classrooms. So there is no more issues with the kids if you want to go them in the first class, but there are absolutely different issue in Moscow for this moment. We are facing the same issues like Shanghai and I don't know, and Singapore. What are the major goals and the major issue for the cities we find in the world is to get the data online, because if the city manager has the data which flows online from the different parts, I mean from the educational, from the healthcare, from the transport system, then the city is controlled well. If there is no data flow, that's the first issue that needs to be solved. And there are lots of cities in the world which are facing this issue. So first of all is to get the data which will help to monitor the city and to manage the city. Because the second issues another cities are facing is that they have data. Now they need to predict the problems that will appear. Because what the Moscow now is working in the educational part is we are predicting that it's going to be losing attention of kids in the classrooms. And we're trying to solve this issue. Because if we won't solve this issue, we'll face the issues like now Italy's cities are facing is. It's a school drop-offs. It means when the kids going out from the school and never come back, because it's not interesting. So its major goal is now to predict the problem and solve it before it's become crucial.
So, Larissa, your expertise is very much actually in data. We can sit there as neutral observers or even as citizens and complain about issues that a city might have, but that might not be a widespread issue. So perhaps I'm interested to know, how do you identify problems? What's the most useful data to have, and how do you analyze that data to see where there might be useful solutions?
Yeah, so when we discuss about creating smart cities, so I used to work in government before, for London government, and one of the difficult things that we have is how to understand the issues on all the verticals. So that's why bringing a group of stakeholders together to share information about what is going on, you can come with defined KPIs that you can address. So our capacity to collect data has never been bigger. So we have sensors everywhere. We can collect data from different systems and put them together. What we have to do now is to process that information to understand what happened and predict what is going to happen. So that is all about the machine learning. That is to predict patterns and to identify how changes in policies might affect the future. If we talk about data, which pieces of information that is important, I think the initial step is to understand how the city is growing and where infrastructure should go.
And can you think of an example that you maybe worked on?
So when I was working for London government, one of the issues that we have...
So you were working for London, you said?
For London government. I used to work as a manager for technology implementations for infrastructure in London.
I'm going to say that more slowly because even I didn't hear that. Data, you were working for the London government in data?
In managing infrastructure developments, like technology applied to help us to improve our infrastructure in the city.
Got it.
And one of the things that we had difficulty in understanding is like how to bring those systems connected in a way that everybody had a single view on how London was growing. So we have, in London, is quite difficult, the scenario that we have there. So we have stakeholders. So for instance, UK Power Network and Thames Water. Most of infrastructure providers, they are not obliged to follow the mayor's policies. So you have to develop infrastructure over here. Mm-hmm. And because of this, it's difficult to convince them on some of like areas that they have to focus on the city. So one of the things that we did was to bring those stakeholders together, people representing all the verticals for infrastructure on the same room, and to understand where infrastructure should go because people are going to move in particular areas. And one of the very initial things that we did was to create a database that was the source of the truth. This is how many people are moving to the city. Those are the locations they have to have, and those are the gaps in infrastructure. So how we coordinate joint delivery to also to reduce time to market, reduce cost, because one thing that happens also in cities is Transport for London, dig up the streets. The next day, Thames Water comes dig up the street again, and then you have like that disruption that causes traffic jams, that causes issues to businesses and to pedestrians, and also increase air pollution. So solving these issues in infrastructure by bringing all the stakeholders together and analyze the data as a whole is something that is very key for us.
I mean, you clearly provide a lot of these solutions to cities. I suppose when you're in these conversations with them, what are the things that they're really asking for? What's the top of their list?
Well, I think first of all...
I don't think this microphone is on.
Is the microphone working? Maybe not.
Hello? Sorry. Gentleman at the back with the sound box. Is that working now?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Sorry.
Do we have a mic?
I think that... Excuse me? Can we use that mic? Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello, hello? The mic is not working either.
That's the technologies.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear me?
Is that one on? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Cap. Is that testing? There we go.
That's better.
This is a technology conference.
Yes.
Technology.
We have entered into a new era, the area of the experience economy. What matters for people is the experience. It's not the product, it's not the service, it's the experience of the usage. And this paradigm is also true in cities. So the first thing that is very key is the citizen. And the citizen is really at the center of everything that needs to be done. So what, of course, we can discuss about many types of problems, about utilities, mobility, supplies of all kinds. What matters is really how you embark the citizen in the transformation of the city. To give you an example, about 10 years ago in Shanghai, in preparation for the World Expo 2010, they had to do a major revamping. Besides the fact that the city was growing very fast, they had to do major revamping to make room for the Shanghai Expo, and therefore to move people from old areas and derelict areas to new development on the outskirts of the city. What was very key for the city hall and the mayor of Shanghai at the time was to make sure, even in China, that he had the blessing of the citizen and that they were embarked on the adventure and that they could believe that they would have a better environment in their new settlings than in the previous one. And therefore, it was not with a simple cardboard presentation that they would be understanding what would be the new experience. And therefore, we developed a virtual twin of the new district so that the people could experience in 3D what would be their new living environment. If you look, by the way, today at Singapore, this is exactly the goal. The goal is to put the citizen at the center of the city, the experience of the citizen, and therefore to be able, and they have big money. They have, and it's a major transformation project of the city of Singapore, where they want to develop a digital twin of every aspect of the city. It goes from making sure that the kids have their bus stop in the right place when they go to school. And this is Singapore, so a decision has been made to ensure that they were going to collect the data. So they equipped 250,000 college kids with sensors to understand what was the way they were following, and they realized, by the way, that they were not following necessarily the way that they could think of.
Although, but having said that, that's interesting. I'm sorry, I'm going to return to my question. When you sit down with the city, and so you might, in the previous job, sat down with Artem, and like you might have asked, well, here are some solutions that we want to solve. What are the top 3 things on their list?
Well, the top 3 things may depend.
Hello? The microphone has been cut off again. Is it working?
The top 3 things may really depend on what the city is, where it is located. Of course, if you are talking to an African mayor, or to the mayor of Shanghai, or to the city-state of Singapore, or to Moscow City, you are not going to get the same answer.
Well, maybe I rephrase. What are your top 3 best sellers then?
Well, you know, the first problem that everybody is having when they go out every day is mobility.
Right.
So mobility, and therefore the infrastructure for mobility, are really in the top of the agenda. And we have been doing a lot of work on infrastructure development, and always with the same basic concept, which is that the digital twin enables really to understand better the reality, enable people to understand each other, to break the silos by providing a digital continuity and a single version of the truth across the different department, organization, utilities provider, etc., so that people speak the same language, have a single version of the truth. So this is, I mean, the digital twin is really the fundamental element, and it can be extended more or less depending on what you want to be able to manage.
And just for people's comprehension, digital twin is basically a virtual model of the actual city, so you can follow it all online. But ultimately, you know, clearly, Moscow was very successful with e-government and was congratulated by the UN on that basis, I think, as #1 in the world. It's interesting to me that, you know, when we think about smart cities, we're always thinking about, you know, smart cars, you know, self-driving cars and, you know, smart grids and various other, you know, almost sci-fi elements. E-government is a very practical solution. It's about bringing service online. How did you decide that that was the priority for you guys?
The smart city, what it is, the smart city, which is smart, first of all. For Moscow, it means that it's smart investments. So it means when you try to solve the issue and you decided that you'll use the technology, first of all, you need to understand that using this technology, will it save the money and solve the issue? That's in all spheres, even in the healthcare, even in education. So
it's the best return on investment.
Yeah. So return on investment is the #1. The #1 again is the perception of the citizens, because you need to implement technologies in those spheres which are ready to percept it. That's why first technologies when we started in Moscow was to analyze what the people want. And it's based on 2 lines. First of all, we create the services which gives an opportunity to citizens for claiming, for e-voting, for giving the proposal to the government. That's the first line. And the second line is to monitor the social networks, to understand what the people write in their Facebooks and whatever, because this gives an opportunity to understand what's our real problems in the city. So, and when you compare to this active citizens and passive citizens, because passive citizens, which most of them, they won't send you a letter that I don't like this and this. It's more easy for them to post something in a Facebook that I don't like this, this, this. So the second is again to understand that what the people really want. So first is investment, return on investment. The second, to understand the demand. And the third is if the population is ready. I mean, again, the citizens are ready for the implementation. Because that's not easy. Sometimes there is a huge lack of literacy.
I would like to pick up on this question, education, in a second, but firstly, I would just like to ask Larissa, perhaps, you mentioned perhaps handling different stakeholders. You have, clearly, Artem, you're saying that it's a question of understanding what the citizens want and need and what can help them. Then is it also the government or the city administrations, on the other hand, to have their budget, have their desire to perhaps reduce costs in a certain area and make things more efficient. And then thirdly, you have the private companies who perhaps want to maximize their profit or at least ensure that they can have recurring revenue over an extended period. And I think you've been in the middle of some of those conversations. Yeah. And how do you think those things get managed, and whose responsibility is it to manage them?
I think the most successful implementations of those engagements I have seen is like more of a middle out, not kind of a middle out approach, right, instead of a top down. So government, kind of dictating how things should go. And then when you have like the bottom-up approach, like the stakeholders also exposing what are the issues that they have, because most of the time they don't have a good understanding or the data from government, so they know where to act, where to deploy technology, or where to deploy infrastructure, where to improve also physical assets. So I think the best approach for us to follow this is to come with this approach of bringing stakeholders and adopting this middle out, not only like infusing or dictating how things should go, but also listening to them. Another very important tool is for us to understand who is in the room. You're going to have policymakers, you're going to have engineers, you might have architects, you might have technologists, because a lot of the time the techies, they're the people really creating the technology that is helping us to improve how cities work. How do you discuss a topic in a way that everybody understands? So in my experience, one of the things that we did was to use the HoloLens to bring like the data that we have on the computer. You have like a prediction of 9 point something. What it means actually in practice. So when TfL was studying pedestrianizing Oxford Street, one of the things that we did was to get the pedestrianizing model, like the mobility prediction model, and then put this in the HoloLens inside of a table that everybody could see and interact with the design and see the consequences of, if there's an accident here, if there's a construction site here, how that will affect air pollution, mobility, and how that will also impact the businesses in that area. They get impacted by disruption in transport and disruption in traffic and everything else. So bringing this, using the technology, I think it's all about being creative today. All the technology is out there. It's just like finding ways to bring the technology together to engage all the stakeholders. And I think one of those things, like holographic technologies like HoloLens, helps us to bring into the conversation in the same understanding stakeholders from different backgrounds, which is quite useful.
I mean, that does, again, lead back to this question of education. And, you mentioned using HoloLens and similar. But I think with the e-government question, I will return to you afterwards, but with the e-government idea, if I think of my parents who are in their 70s, I'm sorry if they're watching and they fear a slight slur, but, just teaching them to, say, opt out of things on Facebook, opt out of targeted ads, opt out of facial recognition. For me, showing them to do that down the phone is hard. Often when we think about education, we think about people under the age of 18. How hard was it to bring older generations with you in ensuring they were able to use that newer technology?
It's very hard. Moreover, we made 3 attempts, and on the 4th attempt, it looks like we found the solution. Is how to, again, to close this lack of literacy with the, let's say, older people. Now there is a huge project in Moscow called Moscow Long Life. The idea is to attract the elder people into active life with giving an opportunity to learn something new, like what is, I don't know, the dancing, the arts, and etc. And one of the big lines is IT there. So getting familiar, what is the Facebook, what's the face recognition, And the biggest demand is for the IT courses from the old people. So the most of them goes there, and now they're trying to learn to, and sometimes even teach their relatives in this. So
and that was the fourth attempt. That was right.
Yeah, because before that we try to use the kids. I mean, we made a mistake. We thought that if we'll teach the kids will teach their grandmother, grandfather. No way. They don't talk to each other, and they have their own issues. So there was lots of attempts, but the only way is directly invest in educational of older people and creating the special courses which is free for them, where you can use it, when you can teach them.
And of course, you're active globally. How do you find that differs market by market? Are there some markets where, you know, actually the population is very quick to adopt new technologies? Where is it perhaps harder to encourage that sort of adoption?
Well, I think every place that has a growth challenge, a transformation challenge, is definitely interested in using digital technology. At the end of the day, you have to understand the digital twin is a way to make better decision, faster decision, more informed decision. So the virtual world has this merit that you can make mistakes in the virtual world, and therefore you are testing, if we do that, what is going to happen in the real world. So it's a dialogue between the digital, the virtual, and the real. This is why, by the way, the IoT is a way to collect the data from the real experience and to confront this data to the virtual model. One enriches and is in dialogue with the other. So whenever you are confronted to the challenge of a transforming environment, whether it is because it's a city in Africa that is growing extremely fast, or whether it is the need to redevelop older infrastructures, you have this need to be able to test your ideas of the transformation. And you know, this is not something that is unique for the cities. This is what every industrial community has been confronted to in the past 30 years. And what we see, by the way, in this overall construction and civil engineering market is that it's lagging in productivity. It has been quite inefficient. If you look at the curve of progression of productivity in industry compared to what is happening in construction and civil engineering, there is definitely a big gap. So digital is a way, in fact, to improve the productivity, to make better informed decision. And you can extend, once you have the digital model of the city, then you can extend to multiple sources of data and being able from the digital model to manage what-if scenario and make faster, better decision.
Christian, again, I'm going to be rude and ask you to go back and answer my question. In which regions do you think the growth, the adoption is slower than it is elsewhere?
I don't think we can say there is it depends really, again, it's a city-by-city topic. And it depends, of course, on the level of engagement that you have, but I can tell you that everywhere on the planet, you have the same sensitivity to the topic. But it depends, of course, on how the city is managed, organized, and it depends also on the level of maturity of the environment. I mean, maturity in terms of understanding what new technology can bring to the city. So it's our role, in fact, also to educate the government and the authority. And this is why we do spend also a lot of time making sure we have a partnership with leading universities, but also that education on 3D modeling goes everywhere across technical colleges so that the young kids start to think and to be able to create in 3D and to think in 3D, because this is also very important for the new emerging industry, which is, by the way, an industry of about knowledge and know-how, but which enable also, thanks to now the technology of additive manufacturing, to the makers.
I feel this seems like a rabbit hole.
Just a second.
We've gone a long way from which countries will this adoption slow.
I can tell you China, Japan, in Europe, in the US as well. So in Africa, this is starting up. So I cannot say that there is one that is better than the other. You have some cities that are more advanced and more aware and more sensitive than the others, which may have maybe more acute problems. And education, at the end of the day, is very key to make sure that it's not only education of the people on the e-governance, it's also education about what the technology can bring to make the people citizens, actors of the transformation of their own environment.
Right, got you. I mean, clearly, you guys have a business. You want to make money from this sort of thing. And you as well, I suppose, up to a point, but obviously you're trying to solve these problems. Like, where's the push and pull and the tension between, ensuring that you guys are generating value while also ensuring that, your shareholders are happy? I don't know how often you're in the middle of those financial conversations. I suppose maybe one question would be, when you guys are sitting down debating a contract, where is that tension? Where is the point where you're saying, this is a great service, but we don't want to overspend on something?
Talking to my previous experience when working on the government, so for Moscow, it was crucial to work with the business, because despite the fact that the IT budget of Moscow is closer to $1 billion of US dollars per year,
wow.
Despite the fact there is no enough money anyway, and approximately the same amount is invested by business. So the total budget is closer to $2 billion. Why so? Because we need to combine our efforts, because huge amount of problems need to be solved. We talked only one of them, which is not solved yet, is educational. Not only government can invest in this part of sphere, but what's more important, some cases the government can't do. Government doesn't understand anything in the marketing, in what the users really want, and etc., etc. So the government can invest only in, let's say, backbone solution, which stands somewhere, the black box, after the stage. On the stage can be on the business, because they know how to work with the customer, with the citizen, how to sell what they want, and etc. That's why only combining the efforts we can reach the result. So, and the combining efforts, it's meaning giving an opportunity for business to make money. It means that you give the market, which you establish the market, which business continue to grow and make money on this market. You receive the happy citizens, and etc., etc. The service model, that's the way to create a smart city. When the city by itself doesn't create its own solutions, it's by the solutions from the business.
And when we think about solutions, clearly, Larissa, sorry, you are at the bleeding edge of a lot of machine learning stuff. What are the most exciting things, maybe whether you're working on or that you're tracking kind of in the technology space?
So I think machine learning can help us in anticipating and predicting, doing predictive maintenance on assets around the city. Also predict like the impact of changes in the city or infrastructure, how that will affect the lives of citizens, or different approaches in policy making as well. But one of the things that I think that is just like to link what you guys were discussing before, I think one of the things that we have to make sure that we have today is like government also uptaking technologists as part of their decision-making process. So Megan Smith, she was the CTO for Barack Obama, and one of the changes that she did was to bring people from Amazon, from Google, and all this to help with governments to ship products as fast as they can, and with a very good innovation process as well. So think about if Google and Amazon, they were to take a very waterfall approach, we would never see products out there. So one of the things that we have to also understand is like technology will touch everything we do, especially in government and everything. So it's important that the people who build those technologies, they're sitting at the table also to help us to discuss with the impact of machine learning. I see a lot of people, it's like the buzzword, blockchain. We want to see blockchain everywhere. Why? And machine learning is the same. A lot of people, they want to talk about things, but bringing also the people with the expertise to sit at the table to advise on ethics or bias and fairness, especially when we talk about smart cities, that the services, they have to be out there for the entire of the population. We cannot exclude anyone. So making sure that the design decisions, they are done right at the right time, so that we have the right data, the right model, and we also identify how we can validate this what are the target groups, what are the KPIs we're trying to assess.
Well, I mean, all of us, I guess, are citizens, and I assume most of us live in cities. What do you think we will see in the next 2 or 3 years, and I will ask you the same question in a second, that are really going to change the way we live?
Well, I think mainly, I think adoption of IoT, like everywhere, pervasive computing everywhere, also within adoption of 5G and spread of 5G, because for us to process data very fast and for us to use machine learning very fast, we need to have connectivity, a very good one and reliable one, especially with smart cars.
But I suppose I mean very specifically,
yes.
It's a product or a service
yes.
that doesn't exist right now and that will
yes.
exist in 2 or 3 years.
I think smart mobility, we're going to have a very big increase on the number of maybe not self-driving car, but cars that can help people to commute more intelligently. We're going to have a lot of that. We're going to have, I think, a lot of applications of augmented reality, mixed reality, for us to transfer the Internet of Skills. Right. So I'm a doctor here. I can help in a surgery like in Japan or something like. So the Internet of Skills is going to be a very big one. So I think smarter cars and highways and the Internet of Skills, I think they're going to be the biggest things happening. And machine learning will touch every single bit of this.
And Christian, your views, and I will give you a prize if you can do it without mentioning the words digital twin.
Well, then I will mention digital platform. At the end of the day, what we are going to see in the coming years is that more and more cities will adopt digital platform to manage their transformation, to manage, in fact, the experience of the citizens. And
we should explain what a digital platform is, perhaps.
Yeah, well, a digital platform, it really is a platform that enables around the digital twin, sorry to be back to the digital twin, which is the reference of the truth, to enable, in fact, organization, people, in fact, to collaborate, having in mind the same information and having access, in fact, to the same version of the truth.
So similar to what Larissa mentioned earlier.
But also for that, we also need standards. Advancement in standards and agreements.
Interoperability.
Because people say standards is like toothbrush. Everyone has its own. No one wants to use each other's. So we have a very big debate on standards and which one to adopt. And to enable digital platforms, we need to have that.
And we are going to see also industry coming back to the cities in a different format, not big manufacturing assembly plants. But again, with this movement of innovators and makers, you are going to see people, citizens, becoming actors of the object services that they want to consume. And you see in Paris, for instance, today, you have more than 12 Fab Labs that have taken root. We are partnering with the Fab Lab Foundation of the MIT, which is spreading, in fact, the purpose is really to package the Fab Lab, the know-how of the Fab Lab in a way that can be replicated anywhere on the planet. Africa is big on their agenda now. And we see this transformation taking root even in Nairobi, for instance, where, in fact, small innovative companies have developed new electric counters because, they don't have much money, so they pay by the day. So these counters are in every home. And these counters, in fact, have been developed locally and made in Fab Labs, in makerspace, and then all the parts are assembled by ladies at home. So this is an appropriation, a local appropriation of the value creation, and we are going to see that increasing at all levels.
Artem, I'll give you the last word. What are you excited about? Anything in the next 2 years that we should keep an eye out for?
It looks like what we're traveling a lot, the world, the killer application today is video, and it's starting from the face recognition, ending with object recognition, your behavior, and etc., etc. Because that's and again the voice, the same, the issues, all, let's say, all biometry is the key element that driving today, because it helps to understand what you think, what you want to do, and it's starting from that you entering the objects, so opening the door based on your face. It's giving the opportunity to sell your products based on your face and the voice and etc. So that's the way, and it's not 15 years, it's already 2 years, because, for example, at least 20 cities I've counted that has the project in retail, in education, in healthcare and security, where the face and voice recognition is working.
You've set us up very nicely for our next panel. So on that note, I will thank all three of you for joining me on stage. And please put your hands together in thanks for all three. Thank you so, so much. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys. Thank you.